Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, it's kind of our annual conversation with the president of the Kansas Farm Bureau. We'll talk with Joe Newland, who's a Wilson County farmer, about what went on at their annual meeting, as well as wrapping up 2024, looking into 2025. Lots of things on the plate of ag producers. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, plus the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture information, America's dairy exports to Mexico approaching record levels as consumer demand for dairy products continue to outpace the country's production. Mexico is the leading market for U.S. dairy products, comprising over 1/4 of international sales. Dairy product consumption in Mexico has increased by 50 pounds per capita since 2011. A new report out from CoBank says the upside potential for increasing U.S. dairy sales to Mexico does remain strong, and broader export market opportunities are positioning the U.S. dairy industry for long-term growth. The author of the report said dairy product sales to Mexico have the potential for continued growth as more consumers enter the middle class and seek higher quality proteins and fats. That's Corey Geiger. He is the leading dairy economist at CoBank. He adds Mexico faces an annual dairy production deficit between 25 and 30%, and the U.S. supplies over 80% of that shortfall. The EU and New Zealand are the top two dairy exporters, but production has stalled in those regions. And USDA says red meat production fell year over year in November as cattle and hog slaughter both declined. Commercial meat production out totaled now 4.56 billion pounds in November, down 3% from a year ago. Beef production dropped 3% on an annual basis to 2.22 billion pounds. Cattle slaughter fell 6% to 2.57 million head last month. USDA says the average weight up 38 pounds, though, to 1,425 pounds. Pork output to 2.33 billion pounds in November. That's down 2% from year over year, and the hog slaughter totaled 10.8 million head, down 2% from the same time in 2023. The average live hog weight unchanged, 289 pounds. Let's look over at lamb. Lamb and mutton production down 7% annually to 10.4 million pounds, and the sheep slaughter fell 9% to 173,600 head in the first 11 months of the year. Red meat production has rose 50.4 billion pounds, up 1% from last year. More coming up in a moment.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And joining us now is Joe Newland, who is a Wilson County farmer and president of the Kansas Farm Bureau. Hi, Joe.
How are we doing this morning, Ken?
Doing well. Always great to catch up with you. And this is kind of our tradition. We end up the year with you to kind of review the annual meeting that took place just a few days ago, but also we'll look to the new year. And so let's just maybe recap. You had several issues that were discussed at the annual meeting in Manhattan. And so how do you think overall things went?
We thought that the annual meeting went over extremely well. We had great participation. We had great attendance. We had over 740 for our banquet. That's a huge number for us. And then we had over 400 delegates there. We only had one county out of 105 that didn't have a delegate to our delegate meeting. And so that was huge as well. And we just look forward to getting things done, especially this coming year. We're here at the end of a great year, for the Bureau. Several good successes during the course of the year, and we certainly look forward to working with the state legislature and our federal delegation as well.
Well, there's a lot of things that will and maybe won't be going on. We can have a whole new challenge come January. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's talk a couple of things policy-wise. You went through the policy book, and it's a grassroots effort from the counties then to the state level. I know a lot of discussion was held on electricity, and really kind of right after the meeting, I guess Congress felt the power of Farm Bureau and decided to back off on this NHTSA situation with Kansas. And at least there's a small reprieve, it sounds like, as far as some of this eminent domain and maybe some of this electronic transmission lines that wouldn't have had a benefit to the state maybe be redirected.
Absolutely. Farm Bureau has been heavily involved with the NHTSA, the National Interest of Electricity Corridors. And so we've had a great push along with our federal delegation to get that removed from the state of Kansas. We had a 5-mile wide NHTSA on the Greenbelt Express line to the north, and then we had a multi-county wide NHTSA to the southwest. The voices of our members were heard loud and clear, and from other agri organizations as well. So to have that removed from the state of Kansas, it was huge. And we have to just look at our legislators and say thank you, and to our members for standing up for their personal property rights. So a great win for the state of Kansas.
I'm sure there'll be things that continue to march on as well. Also, before we go to our break, you had some kind of internal workings. There was a proposal in new business for dues. We know organizations takes money to run them, and so your members spoke on that as well.
They did, and they totally understood where the board was coming from. The board spent almost 2 years trying to figure out what level of increase that we would need to reach out into the mid 30s, 2035, 2036, and what would kind of an increase would it take to get us there before we would need to come back again. That was a $20 ask. Ultimately, the delegate body felt that we only needed 10, and that's fine. We will absolutely make that work for this organization to keep it moving forward. That's what this is all about. It's not for this generation, it's for the next generation moving forward, that this organization has the voice it needs to stand up for agriculture and all of its needs. So we're very appreciative of the discussions that we had with our delegates and how they came up and actually made things work, for this organization. So we're very proud of our delegate body.
Joe Newland, Wilson County farmer and president of the Kansas Farm Bureau, joining us. We'll take a break, come back. There's some national things that we need to talk about moving forward, looking into 2025. We'll do that in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And our guest is Joe Newland, a Wilson County farmer, president of the Kansas Farm Bureau. Joe, Congress wrapped up the lame duck. Boy, it was pretty contentious to say the least. And some wins, maybe not so many, but it looks like what has survived is farmers will be receiving some assistance due to these low prices experienced in 24.
Absolutely, Ken. You know, last week we were able to be in Washington, D.C. While this discussion was going on. Got to visit with our federal delegation on this subject. And yes, it was important that we got a farm bill extension. Uh, we understand that the House would like to get this done in the first half, if not the first quarter. That's going to be a tough hill to climb. But we look forward to working with our federal delegation and to see if we can move things forward. And then disaster relief was huge and all for our members. We know that the ag economy overall is kind of lagging right now, especially in the commodities, with beef being the exception, with record highs in a lot of areas in the beef industry. So we look forward to working very hard on how this farm bill can actually help our members and across agriculture as a whole.
E15, year-round E15 was in the first proposal. That failed when they redid it. It is kind of still laying there. Is there a possibility of that being part of whatever a new farm bill that would come in 2025?
I think so. You know, I think there's a lot of help that we can garner and offer year-round the 15. So we want, you know, it happened in the first portion. This is an extension until the middle of March. So once we get to March, we'll see what the Congress is looking at, and I truly believe that we can get that through.
One thing that's probably going to be on everybody's mind still is the Trump tax cuts that come up for renewal. Also, word of the state house that possible property tax relief is coming. You all are going to be busy come January.
We are, and we're going to push our state legislators as well on this real estate property tax. We thought we would have a break last year. Our members deserve it. Our state deserves it, and we hope we can get something done this coming year. On the federal level, you know, we had the estate tax. It would be huge for agriculture, you know, for sure, if we can get these extensions pushed forward or exempt.
Last thing, big issue, that's water. Farm Bureau has been one of those grassroots from the start of the counties to some of these other meetings around the state. Water will be a big deal in Topeka.
It will. You know, what happened 4 or 5 years ago brought the water issue to light, and it brought it to the level of discussion that has been needed for years. And so we want to make sure that we're still involved. Our members are, of course, some of the biggest water users. It would be the biggest water loser if things didn't go good for agriculture. And it would be bad and all for our municipalities as well. So we want to make sure that we're at the forefront of all the discussions, and certainly want to be at the forefront of what can we do for the state of Kansas now that we have Kansas State, we have the legislature, we have a whole host of members involved in these water discussions, and we're just so thankful that we get to be a part of it.
Well, Joe, thanks so much for spending some time with us as we wrapped up 2024, looking into 2025. The challenges remain great, but I guess any of us in agriculture know that we accept those challenges and take them on. So have a great rest of the holiday season. We look forward to talking with you again in the new year.
We look forward to it, Ken. Thank you so much for all you do for the state of Kansas and for agriculture. We appreciate it very much. So have a Merry Christmas, and we wish that to you and your family.
Thank you so much. Joe Newland, the president of the Kansas Farm Bureau. He's a farmer from Wilson County. We'll take a break, come back with more in just a moment.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Life as a farmer has no shortage of challenges. It takes conviction and a resilient spirit, and an enduring belief that the reward and good that comes from your hard work far outweighs even the toughest challenges. But as external pressures increase in our ever-changing world, it often feels like you're facing those challenges alone. Not true. The Kansas Corn Growers Association has long worked tirelessly in the interest of today's corn industry. Our efforts include advocating for markets and export security, fighting for a strong farm bill, establishing smart ethanol policy, and so much more. All on your behalf, because you're busy farming and raising a family, so we're at the table when you can't be, and bringing more and more people to that table, from families to consumers, policymakers, farmers, and more. But like you, we can't do it alone. Our strength is in our members. Our strength is in you. Join us as we continue advocating for the American corn farmer. For you. We're at the table, and we've got your seat.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Kansas Wheat CEO Justin Gilpin and Aaron Harries, Vice President of Research and Operations at Kansas Wheat, and Mike McClellan, a Kansas wheat farmer who serves on the Kansas Wheat Commission, recently participated in the annual crop quality seminars led by U.S. Wheat Associates. Gilpin traveled to Southeast Asia and gave presentations in 3 different countries. Harries and McClellan traveled to South America and gave presentations in 5 different cities in November. Throughout this trip, Gilpin provided an overview of the 2024 hard red winter wheat crop, discussing its primary uses in various food products such as bread, noodles, sweets, and flour types. He highlighted the crop's importance to global export markets and shared data on production and quality factors, which are key to meeting the needs of Southeast Asian millers and importers. In addition to the crop quality report, Gilpin also introduced the topic of biotechnology in the U.S. wheat market, specifically focusing on HB4 wheat, a genetically modified wheat trait that has recently been deregulated for the first time in U.S. history. Harries presented the 2024 hard red winter wheat crop quality update to key buyers in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Chile. Mike McClellan, a farmer from Plainville, contributed to the South American crop quality seminars by offering a first-hand perspective on wheat farming in Kansas. McClellan shared insights into the challenges and successes of Kansas wheat farming, creating a deeper understanding of the dedication and expertise required to grow a reliable crop for global markets. Read more about wheat quality at uswheat.org/crop-quality.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Hayden Getterman is the 5th generation to raise corn, soybeans, and wheat in Johnson and Miami counties. Growing up in the family business, he learned the value of hard work, faith, and dedication to improving the land he works, and he's proud to continue and expand on that legacy. After graduating from Kansas State University with an agronomy degree, Hayden returned to the family farm and also manages his own 500 acres of row crops. Growing up, he saw how hard his family worked to prevent soil erosion by building terraces and using no-till practices and cover crops. Now, Hayden is leading the charge by not just saving soil, but building it. Since 2018, He has helped facilitate a large-scale on-farm research project with K-State called the Kansas Soil Health Partnership to measure the effects of soil management strategies. Since partnering with the university, Hayden and his family have been able to identify, test, and measure improvements in soil health, with the ultimate goal of benefiting profitability, supporting a stable food supply, and preserving the environment. Hayden is passionate about farming and has participated in numerous programs to share his story, whether with consumers at events like the Johnson County Fair or with other farmers through field days and farm tours. He understands soil health is a slow, evolving journey, but Hayden is excited about the rewards of increased organic matter, weed suppression, and the elimination of soil erosion his family has seen as they've continued to incorporate more conservation practices.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
USDA has appointed 36 members to serve on the Cattlemen's Beef Promotion and Research Board. 2 appointees are from Kansas, and each will be serving their second 3-year term, beginning at the Cattle Industry Convention in February 2025. Evan Lesser is from Palco and owns a diversified operation consisting of a cow-calf herd, farming operation, and small trucking business. Larry Kindig of Osborne is a 4th-generation rancher and farmer who owns and leases irrigated and dryland pasture to provide feed for cattle on his ranch and in his feed yard. Other Kansans currently serving on the board include Jack Geiger of Robinson, Amy Langvart from Alta Vista, Marissa Clay-Stuber of Garden City, and Jacqueline Leffler from Americus. The board is authorized by the Beef Promotion and Research Act of 1985 and is composed of 101 members who must be beef producers or importers of beef and beef products nominated by certified producer organizations, of which KLA is one. The group oversees collection of the dollar per head checkoff on all cattle sold in the U.S. and dollar per head equivalent on imported cattle, beef, and beef products. The board also is responsible for approving the annual budget for national checkoff funded programs.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Hello and welcome. Tanner Burning with Pinion Risk Management, giving you a commodity market recap for the calendar year of 2024. This is normally a season where we look back and have a lot to be thankful for, but with the price action in grains this year, being a head scratcher, it has caused more heartache than warm feelings. Corn and soybeans saw the contract high for the year come in on January 2nd as we gapped lower on the opening trade of the year and never looked back. Little can be known about crop size and price direction in the first day of the season's trade, but it was set from there that the pain was going to come early and come often. A January to December difference of over $3 for soybeans and over 75 cents on corn. And if you mark that to the pre-harvest lows in corns, would have netted out over $1 of loss before rallying after some sudden demand from Mexico and other world buyers. Wheat markets saw limited opportunities as well, with the only major rally of the year coming pre-harvest as the Black Sea had some risk of late freeze that could have harmed production. That rally lasted about 30 days from late April to the end of May before many producers had even thought about getting combines. From then on, it was a struggle to keep cash values between $5 and $5.50, and here at year end, where we sit in Kansas, most elevators are paying $4.50 cash to close out the crop year. For cattle, let's just say they continue to print cash like Jerome Powell going into a pandemic. The question remains out there, what are we looking for in 2025? as it pertains to these markets. The factors in front of us remain weather in South America, trade negotiations between U.S. and other nations, potentially peace negotiations coming out of the Black Sea, and a near burdensome supply of grains. And what is the U.S. going to do if a consistent stream of demand does not remain? An interesting note, on the December 2024 WASDE report, the USDA projected a carryout of 1.8 billion bushels of corn. In January of 2024, they were projecting out a 2.2 to 2.3 billion bushel carryout of corn. We've talked about the price difference in that time frame, so I'm going to let your mind do the math on where we could be going if a supply disruption comes in the first of the year. I'll just mention quickly that bean correlation is not as friendly, and the main factor for wheat upcoming is the conditions in the Black Sea area and how they come out of their winter. How you handled the crop marketing season is not the most important thing to dwell on, but did your farm production help lift off for some of the marketing challenges? Is your family still in good health, or did you learn something from this previous year? Those are what I'm looking forward to talking about now as we sit in a time to really get serious about how to make money in our operations in 2025. Marketing of grains in today's world is a nonstop, full-time job when it comes to covering global supply and demand, the geopolitics, trade relations, and global weather, along with competition from algorithmic and computer trades consistently switching from risk on to risk off. So, when it comes to following the day-to-day, ever-changing, moving agricultural markets, we at Pinion Risk Management look to be a trusted source of information for our clients, along with being a guiding hand on decision-making and reasoning towards a market plan. To learn more about our approach at Pinion Risk Management, call us at 888-452-8751. I'm Tanner Burning with Pinion. Have a happy holidays and a prosperous new year.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
That's our program this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or our social media channels. We thank you so much for making us a part of your weekend every weekend in 2024. Look forward to doing the same in 2025. Tell your neighbors and friends to join you and us again next week for the Kansas Ag Report.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.